thank you to our media friends for being here. That's important. And you were here in 2022 and you're here again now. That's terrific. Can I say that it's really reassuring to have the Premier here, Premier Chris Minns, and locals feel really assured. He's out and about right across the region because this is a regional event, and we're also hooked up with Queensland, so we're working closely together. It's fantastic just how close that relationship is. It's one event that covers us both. But can I say that we are so prepared. Our agencies are super prepared. Our community's prepared, as well as our councils. And that's fantastic. We have got time. We've used it well, and we'll continue to use it well. But having the Premier, we've got Chris Minns, we've got Senator Sheldon, the PM Special Envoy. I've spoken to the Prime Minister this morning, and that's also reassuring, and it's also reassuring the things that he's announcing. But look, it's really, for me, the big thing is preparation. We're prepared, we use that time well, and I'll hand over now so that you can hear from our Premier. Chris?
Thanks, Chanel. It's great to be here with you under trying circumstances, and it's fantastic to have the civic leaders from across the Northern Rivers who are here with us, including the Mayor Steve, Federal MP Kev Hogan, of course Janelle Saffin, SES, Central Energy, New South Wales Police. We're here to answer your questions and to give community information. There's a few things I wanted to say before we get to that. Firstly, and perhaps most importantly, there's 2,000 SES volunteers across the Northern Rivers. They've come from across New South Wales, left their families and communities to keep public safe up here. They're well deployed, they're ably assisted by New South Wales Police, Fire and Rescue New South Wales. We've got a big job ahead of them in the next 72 hours, but we owe them a huge debt of gratitude. There are 24 areas or communities that are subject at the moment to a prepare to evacuate order. That's very serious. We want to make sure that those communities are aware that they're currently within the potential path of the storm. We know that communities in the Northern Rivers are resilient people, but we need them to understand that the threat isn't over, and as a result they need to make sure that they're doing everything they can to prepare. Albert at the moment is behaving a bit like a completely unwanted house guest. It's told us that, sorry, I'm going to start that again. Hurricane Alfred is behaving at the moment like a completely unwanted house guest. It's told us that it's going to be late, but linger even longer. And unfortunately, that means the window for destruction in our community, heavy rains, winds, powerful surf, is longer than we would have otherwise liked. As a result of that, we're going to need the local community. We're going to be leaning on the local community, this resilient, tough, defiant community in the Northern Rivers, to do their bit. It's very important that you prepare your house, particularly for loose items in the yard, on the roof, to make sure that it's not effectively a weapon that can fly as a result of high winds. Keep your documents together. Download the Hazards Near Me app. Never ever drive through floodwaters to put yourself in danger and an SES volunteer. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, listen to emergency service broadcasts. If some of these prepare to evacuate orders move to an evacuation order, it's incredibly important that we minimise the amount of people that need to be rescued in the event of a massive natural disaster. Even the best resourced, best trained emergency service outfit in the world can't be everywhere instantly in the event of a major natural disaster. So we're asking the community to do their bit. We know that they will. Regrettably, this town has gone through a lot in the last few years and they know how to prepare for these natural disasters, but we're counting on them in the next few hours. And I'm going to hand over to Stuart Fisher from the SES. And it's Alfred.
I'll just say tropical cyclone. Okay. Good morning, everyone. As the Bureau of Meteorology has indicated this morning, the cyclone has slowed and will approach the land sometime Saturday morning. This has allowed us an extra day for members of the public to prepare. Today will be their last day to prepare their properties, should they wish to stay. If they don't feel safe, then they should think about moving out, and tomorrow will be that day for that decision. After that, as I said before, when the storm hits, and particularly those high winds, that will bring down trees and power lines, it may stop the egress of them coming or getting out, and for us to actually get in and to assist them. I cannot stress enough that this is a significant weather event. It is not like 2022 where we had a single event. We've had beach erosion, and which is occurring now. We'll have the very strong to dangerous and destructive winds over the next 24 to 48 hours, followed by those the torrential rain. Should that stall over the land, we are predicting anywhere between, at the moment, 300 to 400 mil of rain, but if it stalls, you will see an increase in the rainfall of around 600 to 700 mil of rain, which will cause, again, significant flooding on many of the river systems up and down the coast. We have currently issued over 300,000 sandbags, and there are still more to come. But again, today is the final day, we believe, for you to prepare your homes, and if you cannot prepare the homes or you feel unsafe, to leave and leave by tomorrow.
Thank you. Thanks, Stuart. Minister.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Just, I suppose, to sum that up, firstly, I want to thank our emergency services with over 2,000 SES members here from right across the state. They're being ably and very well supported by all of our emergency services across the state, and it's incredibly inspiring to see the way that they have come together. They've come with their equipment and they're here to prepare and work with this community who has faced so much over a previous period of time. Now, it's been pretty much acknowledged that there's been a lot of preparation. We're preparing everything we possibly can, and to that end, I really want to thank the community for heeding those calls. We've been seeing the way that they've been preparing. People are moving things to higher ground. People are responding to their prepare to evacuate orders. And again, I reinforce, please make sure that you follow those instructions, that you keep well understood of what those instructions are. Our volunteers and our emergency services will do everything they can, but we also need the community to do their bit. So again, please stay up to date with the SES website, stay up to date also with the Hazards Near Me app, be aware of your local surroundings, and be conscious of looking after not only yourself, but also vulnerable people around you and people that you may know. Thanks.
Mayor.
Thanks, Janelle. This is like the reformation of the Beatles, isn't it? The band's back together, sadly, for our community to have to deal with this again. And it's heartbreaking, to be honest, but one thing that I can say that I'm extremely proud of is to see early preparation and people who are so much better off right now than what we were in 2022, and that is heartening. But I want to stress to everyone that this is just the very start of what we're about to face, and so heed the warnings. Critical that you heed the warnings. Don't put others in danger because you want to become a environmental tourist or take some of these selfies and putting yourself in harm's way. Heed the warnings, stay at home, protect your loved ones, and please stay safe. That's the most important thing. We need to get through this weather event together so that everyone is safe and well, and then we can assess things. But I'm really grateful for the Premier who has made the effort to join us in the Northern Rivers for this event. It's never a good time to welcome the Premier under such circumstances, but Minister Dibb as well. And the work that Janelle and Kevin do as well behind the scenes is unbelievable. So thanks to everyone involved in this, but let me just say that we are at the very start of this weather event. It is going to be quite treacherous over the coming 2 or 3 days, so please stay safe and listen to the warnings.
Thanks, Steve. Senator Sheldon. Here, the special
sorry.
award.
And welcome to you too.
Got a bit on your mind, mate. It's absolutely fine, mate. It's Tony Sheldon, the Special Envoy for Disaster Recovery, and also echoing both Steve and Janelle and the Premier and Minister Jihad Dibb. Importantly is the preparation, and part of that preparation supporting the Premier's and also the Prime Minister early release of funding arrangements to deal with the funding that's needed to make sure that we are dealing with the responses to the emergency that we're presently facing. Will mean that councils and individual residents will be able to get early release of funds, and that's an important step. This is a preemptive step that's been taken by both the Premier and Prime Minister. It's one of a kind. It's the first time it's been done, and it's an important step in making sure that the community knows that all of us, both locally, community groups, the Premier and the Prime Minister, are one, and that we're going to be on the front foot when this event, as it's arriving, and we're going to be at the front foot recovery afterwards. We know there'll be more work to be done after that. We'll take those steps as necessary as the Premier and Prime Minister decide through their consultation with the community. So thanks again for that announcement and this step. It's very important to make sure we are prepared on the front foot and that the community is there with the support of both the government and local voices.
Thanks, Tony. Kevin Hogan, Federal Member for Page.
Thanks, Janelle. Excuse me. Thanks, Janelle. Senator, thank you. I'll mention you first as a federal minister here, and it's very important that you're here. And Premier Chris Minns, very important. And I know Janelle's very grateful, Steve's very grateful, I'm very grateful, as all the local mayors and local state MPs and federal MPs are. You being here is important, and I've personally witnessed both of them make phone calls that are important for us in our preparation. The one advantage to this slow-moving thing that we're waiting for is we have had time for preparation, and it's been important and very grateful that you're here to help us prepare. And look, you can only do so much waiting for something like this, but look, I can't see anything else that on a state, federal or local government area that we could have done waiting for this. But I just want to remind, the SS just reminded us then, we know floods, this is going to be different because of the wind. But I just want to repeat a couple of rainfall statistics that may happen, just so everyone can get their head around this, because we understand these. 200 to 400 mils is going to be quite widespread. So we get that, but we don't know exactly where yet, but there are going to be local falls in excess of 700 millimetres of rain in certain areas and certain catchments. So that means the upper levels of what is expected may well happen. So we've had time, but for anyone who hasn't, you have basically about 12 hours to further prepare. So that means if you've lifted up but you think you may have should have actually taken it physically higher, do that. If you're thinking about leaving your home because you think you may or maybe should, leave it now. Because we don't know exactly where these in excess of 700 millimetre falls are going to be, but they're going to happen. And they're going to happen in certain catchments, and you have to prepare for that. So prepare for the worst. We are all hoping and praying for the best, but you must prepare for the worst, and the worst is it's going to be as bad as we've ever seen, so you need to take precautions.
Thanks, Kevin. Jenny Dale, Australian Red Cross.
Jenny Dale from Emergency Services for Lismore team. I'm here to talk really about what other people in the rest of the state can do on behalf of another arm of Red Cross, which is the blood bank. We know people here have literally rolled up their sleeves to help their families, their vulnerable neighbours and everyone else. We're asking people throughout the state and the nation to roll up their sleeves and give blood. We're already 1,000 donations down per day, with 22 blood centres closed in this region because of this event. So please, rather than as well as your thoughts and prayers, we ask people in other parts of the state and Australia to literally roll up your sleeves and give blood. Contact your local blood centre or go online and book an appointment as soon as you can. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny.
Great message.
Well, there you go. If you're at home watching this, wondering how you can help, that's a great message. Go and donate blood today. We're happy to take questions.
The disaster recovery funding arrangements that have been announced, what will that enable?
Yeah, they're early stages at this point. It's about releasing funds, particularly for local councils. We're working with the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth have released those funds. We're very grateful for that, and I'm sure what it means is that some of the councils can deploy their resources earlier than they would have ordinarily done, without the worry of whether they're going to get it rebated to them. Now, our hope is we've got to prepare for the worst, but if this does blow over, we don't want to see councils left out of pocket because they've done the right thing, acted early, put precautions in place, and we want to incentivise the kind of preparedness that we've seen right across the Northern Rivers. And not just Steve, I've spoken to Chris in the Tweed. We've made contact with the Mayor of Ballina and Byron. I hope to see them this afternoon, and they're all doing everything they can to prepare their communities for the onslaught.
The Prime Minister mentioned $1 million. Obviously, after you saw in 2022
Yeah.
and the damage that could be done, it's going to be far, far
Yeah,
higher.
yeah.
Is there any ceiling?
No, there isn't.
Is access to a lot more?
Great question.
All right, Simon, there's more.
Simon, it's a very good question. It's really important that we get the message across. This is just the beginning. We know the scale of potential impact as a result of these natural disasters, and we're prepared to walk. We want to walk the path with the Northern Rivers community, people of Lismore, in the event of the worst happening, the worst case scenario happening. Look, the last 3 years, you wouldn't wish it on your worst nightmare and on your worst enemy. It's been a complete nightmare for the people of Lismore, but they are tough, incredibly resilient. They're optimistic about the future in all circumstances, and we're going to be relying on them in the days ahead.
Premier, a lot of people in town have told us that the messaging that they're getting is really confusing, mixed messages about how bad it's going to be, and it's making it hard for them to know whether to prepare, how to prepare. Is that good enough? Does that need to be looked at?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure why. I mean, I think the messaging from the Queensland government, the New South Wales government, the SES has been very consistent and very direct. What has changed is the weather information. And we took a message from the 2022 emergency declaration that up-to-date, immediate, accurate information is what is required for the local community. So it may change, whether it's the pattern of the storm, the potential impact zone, what time it's expected to arrive, and what to expect in terms of wind, coastal erosion, and flooding. What I would be devastated to hear is if a sense of complacency crept in, or a sense in the community that because it's delayed, the potential impact is as extreme as it's been in the past. That's not the case, and I don't want there to be confusion about the messages. But what will happen is the pathway of the storm may change in the days ahead. But that's information that we need to get into the hands of the people of the Northern Rivers and New South Wales.
Can we just talk specifics for Lismore?
Sure.
They just put a release out saying that there could be major flooding by Friday in the middle of when the rain's coming. So that's major at 9.7, the levee top's at 10.6. Are we now predicting that the levee will be overtopped?
Yeah, there's not a prediction on that yet. I mean, if I'm going to be really candid about it, it's right at that level. But we've seen these storm fronts before, and I think Kevin's point is a good one, and it's well taken. There may be very intense, isolated rainfalls of up to 700 mils in particular areas. We're not sure whether it will fall directly in the Lismore catchment or not. So the best thing to do, as we've been saying for the entire week, is to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And that's certainly what the SES has done over the last 2 weeks, and also Lismore Council as well.
And we're hearing that Kyogle is probably coming up for their largest flood. Have you elaborate on that?
Well, again, if you look at some of the flood modelling, we're obviously concerned about it. That's why we're all here and we've deployed resources. But I would just urge everybody to follow the Hazards Near Me app. That will provide you with the latest information. That information may change, but the direction from the government and the SES will not. If you're under a prepare to evacuate order, it means exactly as it says. You should prepare for the event of evacuating if the weather turns and it hits that community in a particular way. But until that happens, we're not going to make the call.
In 2022, the M1 was cut for a couple of days. Have you got plans in place for getting in essential supplies, fuel, food, etc., if that happens again?
We do. I mean, one of the hard realities of the Northern Rivers and the amount of natural disasters that have hit this community is the SES, the government, and Transport for New South Wales have gotten better at logistical connections to these isolated communities. But part of those plans, and this is why evacuation orders do come into place, is to reduce the headcount in those communities so that if there is a need to restock or resupply a community, the number is smaller than it otherwise would have been. That's why we need people to listen to evacuation orders, and if the direction goes out by the SES, you have to follow it.
The other thing we saw in 22 was 000 go down. Thousands of people couldn't get their calls to emergency services through. What is the system able to handle the, number of calls it may experience in an event of this scale?
Look, we believe it is. We've put significant capacity into the emergency communications network for exactly these kind of natural disasters. And look, I don't want to hypothecate about what could go wrong. I think we need to approach the gathering storm in a calm, methodical way, listen to the information and communication that's being communicated by the SES in particular. And if that happens and people follow the information that's being provided, I'm confident that we can weather this storm, but it's going to take all of us to do it.
Is there any update on the communities that might be asked to evacuate at some point today? This might be
Stu, did you want to come in?
Yeah, as the Premier indicated, we've got 24 prepare to evacuate warnings in place. We are dependent and looking at those river systems and the river heights. We've got certain trigger points ready for that to occur, and when they do reach that, we will then issue the evacuation order should that need to occur. We are very conscious that we don't particularly want to issue them at night, and if we can do it prior to that, we will do so.
Are there particular areas that you would name as concern?
Yeah, look, at this point in time, again, it depends where the storm hits, where it comes, how much water it dumps on us, and again, through the Bureau of Meteorology and the hydrologists, we work closely with them. They give us the predictions. We've got our mapping. We've got our I think of the word now. We've got our preparations ready to go. Our trigger points. Once we do, then we'll issue those orders. But we are considering preempting, and if we do that, that should come in the next day or two. But again, it's dependent on what the Bureau tell us and the heavy rain and the rainfall that we do get.
Superintendent, what else have you got at your disposal to help you respond? Obviously, both sides of the border made that ADF request formally, and there's some aerial things on standby. What other tools have you got available to you?
Yeah, look, we've got drones. New South Wales Government gave us some great funding over the last 3 years. We've got new equipment that we are just bringing in and testing as we do. We've got drones, high clearance vehicles. We've got high trans pumps for fire and rescue up here. The ADF walked into my EOC this morning, so they're now with us. So we've got everything in place. We think we've got 2,500 volunteers plus full-time staff plus the other agencies with us. So we think we are prepared. Again, the message is you need to be prepared as well. The community needs to be prepared. We're there to assist, but they need to help us too.
In terms of preparations, I hear there's some potential risk to the Tweed water supply because of backwash past the Bray Park Weir. What can you tell us about that?
We know that there are issues such as that. I can't directly answer that question for you at the moment, but our operations centre are looking at that. We are looking at all the variable possibilities that may occur up and down the coast, and as you can imagine, our EOC, or our operations centre, has over 50 people working at the moment, from planners to analysts, and we're trying to work through that in conjunction with the local councils and the other agencies.
Will there be an evacuation centre at Iluka? I think there's a few people there upset that they haven't been able to access one yet.
Look, we work with the Emergency Operations Centre and the local Emergency Operations Controller, and then we ask them, can they look at those? But I understand there are many EOCs that are opening up and down the coast, and some will continue to open up over the next couple of days, but I'll refer to New South Wales Police who look after and coordinate.
How many centres have you done?
15 evacuation centres.
How many people have turned up into the evacuation centre?
Superintendent Tanner.
So the 40 in the EOS, sorry.
Do you want to just step up?
Step up, Scott.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Superintendent Scott Tanner, by the way.
Thanks, Simon. So there's currently 40 persons that are in the SCU, the evac centre. We've got another 24 that are in the Evans Head evac centre. We've got them opened more or less all around the district at the moment, and we're ready and prepared to take people in there.
I mentioned yesterday we did talk about what is available for people when they do go there. Is there bedding, is there food, etc. Can you just tell us about that?
There is a variety. As you can understand, we've got to get resources in. And the analogy we've given today, that don't expect a cruise ship, this is a life raft. So it's somewhere where you can go and you can be safe. If you're going there expecting that you're going to get 5-star service, it's not available. We are encouraging people that before they go to an evac centre to explore all possible opportunities with friends and families so that they're in a more comfortable environment.
So you're looking to set one up at Iluka, knowing that they often get cut off?
So Iluka is part of the cost clearance EOC, but I can certainly make those inquiries for you.
From a police perspective, Superintendent, are you playing a role in getting to those areas where people might need some direction? Obviously there's a lot of hinterland areas and things where they see high totals, dirt roads. Are you out and about reaching out to them, or what's the police approach?
Absolutely. So we've got our police with our SES colleagues going around holding a number of community meetings right across the whole North Coast and the Northern Rivers. They've been happening since yesterday. They'll continue today. But also, if you know of someone out there that you believe is in indirect communication or does need to be spoken to, make sure you contact your local emergency services and let us know. because there are people that, as you know, are in isolated areas that don't often stay on the grid, so we need to be made aware of those as well.
Can I add to that as well? I mean, I think we've detailed some of the resourcing that the government, the SES, Fire and Rescue, just to go through some of those numbers again, 2,000 SES volunteers in the Northern Rivers, 200 essential energy electricians and linesmen who are ready to reconnect power, massive resources from Fire and Rescue, the Australian Defence Force on site. There's good cooperation with the Queensland Government in the event that their power goes out and ours doesn't, or vice versa. However, even the best resourced emergency services can't be everywhere immediately in the event of a major natural disaster, and we are calling on the community to do their part. We know that they will. It's a tough community up here. It's incredibly resilient. They've gone through a lot, but we're going to be relying on them in the next 3 days.
Will you be staying with them throughout, Premier? What's your movements? Are you riding it out, or are you leaving it to the team? What's your plans?
Yeah, well, I'll be here certainly until the storm arrives. And you know, one of the I think learnings from 2022, and this has certainly been communicated by Janelle, Steve, and Kevin, is that it's important that decisions just aren't made 1,000 kilometres away in Sydney, and that people understand what's really going on in the street in real time. So if I can add to that, that'd be great. However, we've got enormous faith in the SES leadership and the leadership of New South Wales Police. You've seen how experienced and knowledgeable the leadership of emergency services on the Northern Rivers are today at this media conference, and I've got enormous confidence in them in the next 3 days. And even beyond that, guys.
Is there an estimate of how many homes could be flood impacted by this cyclone?
Well, I think there's in the region of 10 to 15,000 homes that are subject to a prepare to evacuate order at the moment. That number may rise, and eventually evacuation orders may go out over a larger area. Now, there's a couple of variables that the SES have already spoken about. Firstly, they want those evacuation orders to go out during daylight hours, which means they may preference it slightly earlier than they ordinarily would have, so that you're not getting an evacuation order at 1 o'clock in the morning like you did in 2022. Is that right?
That's right.
That's right. So trying to learn, get best practice in place, make sure there's clear communications, but the storm path will change in the days ahead. We want to make sure the public's got up-to-date information, but you know, I'm a little bit concerned that because this was due to arrive at 2 a.m. on Friday morning and it's now delayed, that members of the public might think, look, it's never going to arrive. We're expecting it to arrive. It is a Category 2. It's a major concern, and you still need to be vigilant as we head into the weekend.